Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast with me, Errol Lawson. If this is your first time here, we want to welcome you. If you're an organizational leader or manager in church-based ministry, in business, in academia, then you're definitely in the right place. In addition to hosting the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast, I also offer one-to-one and group coaching for leaders and leadership teams that want to improve their effectiveness and become more productive and increase their performance. Inspirational, entertaining, and engaging keynote talks that will help shift the mindset of your leaders and bring about the organizational culture that you really desire. For more information or to book a free, no-obligation consultation to see whether we're the right fit for each other, simply drop me an email today at errol@errollawson.com, and I'd love to have a chat with you. Thank you for listening. Enjoy today's show.
At some point in their lives, every great leader runs up against one problem that is simply impossible to ignore. How are they going to fund their vision? Today, Errol is offering you a free copy of his first book in the Rising Generation Leadership Series entitled Big Vision, No Money, 5 Keys to Funding Your Vision. In the book, you'll find guidance from some of the great leaders featured on this podcast about the way Christian leaders should think about money and approach their finances. Simply go to www.errollawson.com to download your copy today.
Hello and welcome back to the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast with me, Errol Lawson, broadcasting all the way from Birmingham in the UK to wherever it is you are in the world today. Our special guest today is Justin Glover. Now, in early 2014, Justin got tired of seeing so many aspiring entrepreneurs falling short and giving up on their goals and dreams, so he decided to do something about it. He shut down his $1 million per year business, found an amazing business partner, and started Results513.com. He's the host of the top-ranked daily podcast, The Results 513 Show, where he shows high-performing entrepreneurs how to step into their power and take their life and business to new heights. Justin, thank you for joining us today, sir. First of all, Justin, fill in any gaps in your bio right there for us and give us a glimpse into your world today.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate that, first and foremost. Any gaps? You know, there's several gaps in there, but it pretty much wraps up the big picture all together anyway. So I started this business. You know, there's been times of joy, times of misery when I wanted to quit and walk away, but didn't. But you know what? I've really, really enjoyed this journey and excited to be chatting with you here today. So awesome. Let's roll, man.
Awesome. So first of all, Justin, what does 513 Results 513? What's that about? Where did that name come from?
The 513 actually comes from a scripture in the Bible. Ephesians 5:13 says, when anything is exposed by light, it becomes visible. And when Brenda and I, my business partner, were setting up our business and creating this business and trying to come up with a name, we said, okay, well, what is it that we're actually doing? And long story short, we came to that scripture and said, you know what, that's pretty much what we're doing. We're lighting up the path for people. And so that's what we've built our business around. We expose, we shine light on people's confusions, and we help people build online businesses and really build their business using technology specifically. So that can be confusing for a lot of people. And so what we do is we break things down, teach it in a way that shines a light and makes things easier and more clear for people to understand. So that's where the 513 comes from.
Awesome. I know, guys, Justin has got an amazing story, and he's not shared it all with you now, but really, if you don't hear it today, go check out his website for sure. He's got an amazing testimony and journey of how he's turned businesses around over the last few years. Justin, how did you get into what it is that you're doing right now? Where did it all begin for you?
Well, I was working 3 jobs, close to 100 hours a week back in 2008. And it all started essentially from me being at one of those jobs. One of the jobs I installed air conditioner units in the big yellow school buses that you see driving around. Right. And So I was underneath the school bus one day for about 13 hours, and I was just under there thinking, you know what, is this really what I am here to do? Is this really what I want to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was no and no. I know that I'm meant for something more. I know that I'm supposed to make a bigger impact while I'm here. But I didn't really know much beyond that. I didn't know how or why or what those specifics look like. I just knew that I was meant for something more. So that night I actually went home. I fired up my laptop. I went to Google and Googled something like how to start an online business, because I knew that I was working those 3 jobs and I didn't have any time. So the only time, like out of every 24 hours I had, I don't know, maybe 8 hours on a good day to do my eating, my sleeping, my socializing, my business building, my showering, everything. So I didn't have a lot of time to work with. And I knew that if I wanted to start a business and get out from working this, these hundreds of hours per week, literally, then I had to start the business and go to the internet in order to do that and leverage technology. And so I went to the internet and I started searching for how you actually do that, what the process looks like, and just learning. And I went through this period of consumption where I learned as much as I could, and I got hooked pretty much instantly once I started understanding about how technology allowed me to develop relationships with people and build true relationships with people automatically while I wasn't even there from work that I had done earlier. That changed the game for me, and I knew, you know what, I can build a business using this thing, and that's what I wanted. That's what I set out to do.
Wow, and you took it to new heights. Was there like a significant epiphany or revelation or sort of like a light bulb moment on your journey when you were kind of heading one way in this journey of learning about the online world, and then it kind of blew up? What was that turning point for you?
There were lots of light bulb moments, especially in the beginning. When I found out about autoresponders, like the simple concept of what an autoresponder can do, that to me, that blew my mind. I was like, wow, that's the secret to all of this. And that got me really excited. But then there was this period of time early on where I was buying a lot of stuff, investing a lot of my money and my time into trying to make this work, but I actually wasn't getting the result that I was after, which was I wanted to generate income. And that wasn't happening for me. And so there was a time when I was down to my last $2,000 in the bank, actually. And I had invested half of that into a mentor, having a conversation with a complete stranger that I knew had already done the thing that I wanted to do, which was generate a lot of money using this thing called the internet. And so I paid him $1,000 at the time to have a 50-minute conversation with him.
Wow.
And that changed a lot for me, because not necessarily because he gave me some like new strategy or a lot of stuff that I didn't know, but really because he told me, okay, well, you know what to do, so are you actually going to do it, or are you just going to keep, buying stuff and learning how to do this stuff even more? You know exactly what to do, you just got to go do it.
Wow.
And so that, I guess, kicked me in the butt. Actually, it made me mad initially, and I don't know if I want to go into that, but there was this brief period of time when I wanted to quit, and I was like, all right, screw this. I don't like any of this idea is gone. Like I'm quitting. But as faith would have it, like it wasn't supposed to work out that way. And so I didn't end up quitting. I stuck with it, and I started taking his advice. I started doing the things that I knew that I was hearing that I needed to do in order to build this business. And lo and behold, they started working. And once they started working just a little bit, I was able to take that and say, okay, well, learn from that feedback. What are the things that are working well? Let's do more of those. What are the things that are working not so well? Let's do less of those. And from there, that's how the business grew.
What was the lesson there, do you think?
I'm sorry?
What was the lesson that you learned through that time?
A lesson that I learned is that just buying the information, just buying the product, investing in the course, that doesn't equate to money showing up in the bank. There's actual work that has to be done in the interim, and there lots of lessons within that. But that was probably the main takeaway from there.
It's good, man. And what's been your biggest challenge so far in your leadership journey?
Biggest challenge, my biggest challenge, I would think, sort of falls in line with my what I would consider to be my biggest weakness, I guess. I'm not a fan of that word, but it sort of falls in line there, and that would be I take on too much. I want, at this point in the journey, it's like there's people, once people start seeing you getting a certain result. I was showing up in affiliate contests and doing really well. And so people knew, okay, well, Justin knows how to do the thing that I want to do. And so let me go see if he can make some time for me to show me specifically what he's doing. And I have a heart, a servant's heart. That's what I always said yes. And so that turned into being my biggest challenge of balancing the schedule. And still today, it remains to be one of my biggest challenges to stay strong with what I say no and yes to.
So now at this stage in your journey, if you wouldn't mind, you can give us a picture of where you're at in terms of your achievements. But how do you now define success? I know you've got sort of $1 million businesses and what have you. How do you now define success?
Yeah, so, I built a couple of my first two businesses that I built. The first business, actually, I grew it from scratch from that day underneath the bus when I decided to start figuring it out. And those months when nothing happened, and then I had that conversation, and then things started working out. I took that business and grew it to $1.9 million in revenue. It took about 3.5 years. Towards the end of that, I decided to, I got the idea down, so I want to start another business. An opportunity presented itself, so I started that. I grew that business from 0 to 1.3 million in 11 months, and so now I don't have either one of those first two businesses, but I have the other business that I'm building with a partner, Results 513. We're moving along really well in that one as well, and in terms of how do I define success, I define success anybody that is doing the thing that they want to do, the thing that really inspires them, the thing that excites them, the thing that brings them joy. Anybody that's actively pursuing that and making forward progress in that, that's how I define success. I define that as a successful person if they are doing that. Because, at the end of the day, what else are you going to do? You have a choice. You can do things that bring you joy and excitement and also end up, satisfying your financial and all your other needs, or you can do the things that you don't like doing. I define the success as somebody who has recognized the things that they enjoy and are actively trying to bring more of those into their life.
That's great. And what role has your faith played in your leadership journey in terms of building to where you are today, in relation to Christ?
Well, it's played a huge role. It wouldn't. There are times when there are no choice. If faith was not in the equation for me, then there would be times when I would have literally walked away. Because I don't believe that this is possible. Because that's what faith is to me. It's a belief, that something is possible. That I'm not having to do this on my own. That I don't have to. And for me, that was made really clear. I talked about this early conversation that I had with somebody that kind of made me upset. I was away. I was out of town, and I was at a conference, and I was down to the last little bit of money that I had. And so I made the decision to quit, and on that drive home, it was like an 8-hour drive overnight home by myself. On that drive home, it was as if God himself was saying, look, you can quit if you want. That's your decision. But you are supported in every aspect, in every way. I am here. You're anything that you ever need will be here when you need it, as long as you just keep following the thing that excites you. And I took that as, okay, well, if I quit, it's on me, right? It's not anything else. So faith to me has been crucial. It plays a role literally every day in my business.
Awesome.
Are you seriously fired up about growing as a leader in business or church-based ministry? Are you feeling somewhat frustrated about not having realized your full potential in what you've been called to do? Could you do with someone to help you get some extra clarity or to be a sounding board for your plans and ideas? Great athletes have coaches, so do great leaders. The right leadership coach for you will result in an increased sense of clarity, direction, and purpose, dramatically increasing the results you achieve. If you're ready to step up, contact Errol to book a free, no-obligation introductory coaching session and see whether Errol is the right coach for you. Errol takes the lessons learned from his own leadership journey and from his extensive research to help leaders and entrepreneurs to step into their biggest challenges and rise to their next level. Email admin@errollawson.com right now to schedule your call.
You know, I think it was John Maxwell that said that that success is hidden in your daily routine.
Yeah.
What does the first 90 minutes of your day typically look like? I bet it changes all the time, but typically, what does it look like?
Typically, my first 90 days, I liken it to kind of like a military drill sergeant in terms of I'm very, very, very particular about those first 90 minutes. Because the moment I wake up, I do basically, there's 6 activities that fuel me mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. There's these 6 core activities, and I got them from a book. Let's see, what's the book called? The Miracle Morning.
Yes.
He outlines the 6 things. I forget what he calls them, but he outlines the 6 things that, and there's, meditation and prayer for me. There's visualization, thinking about the day. There's exercise. There's, a healthy breakfast, like those things. I've got those groups of things. So I'm very, very specific. And I've actually talked about on the Results 513 show, I talk about my specific, like literally I have it mapped out minute by minute for the first 90 minutes. My routine for me is, like, if I don't go through it, then I can always tell, like it affects my day in not a positive way. If I don't go through it, I don't feel unstoppable. And that's sort of the feeling that I try to create every morning. And that routine gives that to me, is the feeling of excitement and being unstoppable, knowing that regardless of whatever else comes up today, now that I've done this during the day, if nothing else gets done, I feel good about it, and I'm unstoppable during the day. The paradox is nothing, like when I do it, there's never a day that nothing gets done. Quite the opposite happens. When I do it, a lot of stuff gets done. So the 90 minutes for me, there's literally been a couple of detailed episodes going through that, so we don't have time to dive into all 90 minutes of it, but it is very, very important for me.
Awesome. And what other key habits have contributed to your success?
The key habits that contribute to my success? Was that the question?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first habit would be that morning routine, that morning ritual. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I say that, I interviewed, we interviewed Eric Thomas on our show.
Okay.
E.T., the hip-hop preacher. And during that interview, he said, you know what? One of the things that people don't realize about morning routines, or any routine, is that if you do them, it's not the things that you do within that routine that really matter. It's executing that routine on a regular basis for long enough so that it becomes muscle memory. It's just like muscle memory. It's just the way that Michael Jordan was able to go and play a game when he was sick as a dog with the flu and still score 40-something points, right? Because he had done it so many times, it was muscle memory at that point. And when you do a similar routine consistently, your body develops muscle memory, and then even on those bad days when you don't feel like doing it, you just kind of do. It's your automatic response. You do it anyway. And so that for me is the first habit. Another great habit that is contributed. I'll give you 2 more actually.
Just on that first one, like, what if you're someone listening, they're married, right, and they're trying to implement this routine, or maybe they've got kids, and they struggle to get to bed early at night, and they're trying to get up early in the morning, and it's a challenge for them. How did you navigate that stuff?
Well, I think it's first by just eliminating the word try. I mean, it's just a choice. You either get up in the morning or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wake up a few hours before. I mean, I wake up really early. I also have a 7:30 appointment where I have to be at. I've got to get all of my stuff done before 7:30 because I know that's my first. I typically try to schedule that appointment on my calendar. But,
Wow.
it really is finding something that works for you as well. I mean, it doesn't have to be my routine when I go through it from start to finish takes close to 2.5 hours. Everybody's routine doesn't have to be 2.5 hours. I don't expect that. But it does need to, as long as you're taking the time every day to take care of yourself, take some time in silence, take some time to fuel yourself up spiritually, emotionally, physically, do some exercise. That is what's really important.
Good.
The other two habits really quickly, the habit of when I come into the office, I have a little mini routine. So an hour of stuff that happens the first hour when I walk into the office. All right. It's very routine, very granular, like step by step. So I know I do the same thing for the first hour when I come to the office every day. Mm-hmm. And the other habit that really served me well in terms of business growth is every day I make sure that there's not a day go by when I've got a master list of what I call money generating activities, the thing that actually, the tasks that when I do them, they actually make the cash register ring. Mm-hmm. I have the master list of those, and so every day I make sure that I'm doing something from that list.
That's great, man. Fantastic. Brilliant advice, Justin. What's your biggest weakness? You mentioned it earlier. Did you say that's your biggest weakness?
Oh, yeah. That's got to be it, is just being disciplined with what I say yes and no to, saying yes to the essential stuff. Mm-hmm. That would be my biggest weakness. That gets me in trouble more than anything else, I think.
And what's your biggest strength?
Biggest strength. Biggest strength would be, there's, I don't know. That's a great question. Chatting with people, sticking with schedules are pretty big strength. I mean, we pump out a lot of content, explaining things in a way when they're complex, being able to explain them in a way that makes them, oh, okay, well, that's simple. Now that you said it like that, I consider, I've been told a lot that that's something I'm really good at. And so that's, I would consider that to be up there at least.
Okay, cool. And when you were starting out and going into leadership, what was holding you back, if anything? What was holding you back?
Nothing. Myself. I mean, I had everything that I needed. I still do. Everybody does. I mean, I had everything. It was nothing other than, beliefs or thoughts or something that was going on in my mind. That was the only thing that was holding me back.
Wow. And who have been your most significant mentors on your leadership journey so far?
There was a guy named Matt Basak early on. He was one of the people that he actually was the one that asked me originally, are you going to do anything or not? So he was very integral for my journey. There have been many other leaders and friends and, people that I've looked up to and learned a lot from, lots and lots and lots.
Awesome. So what was the key piece of advice that Matt Basak gave you?
Well, initially it was, are you going to do anything or not? But in addition to that, the second part of that conversation we had when I said, okay, well, what specifically should I do? The plan that he laid out, that he drew out on actually like a half piece of paper and a napkin was, number one, build an audience. Number two, once you have an audience, ask them what they want and need. And number three, once you know what they want or need, you either create it for them and offer it to them, or you go ahead and find somebody that's already created it, become an affiliate for them, and offer it to them. That was the business model that I took and ran with, and literally 91 days from the time that I had that conversation with him, I handed in my resignation letter for my final job.
Wow. Guys, you got to go check out the Results 513 podcast, and you'll get breakdowns of each of those steps from the podcast. Almost done now. What's the one thing you're most fired up about right now?
I would say the Results 513 show, we are taking it to another level. It's a show we talk every single day, 7 days a week. We teach high performers how to step into their power, how to recognize the power that they actually have inside of them, and then do something with it and make the most out of it. So entrepreneurs, speakers, authors, business coaches, that whole realm, we create a show daily around that. And I just brought on 5 people to help me make that show better. So I'm really excited about that possibility and how things are falling together there.
Awesome. And what book or resource would you recommend for a leader or entrepreneur who's listening right now?
That's a good one. I would say there's a book called Do the Work by Stephen Pressfield. It's a very short book. I think that should be required reading for all entrepreneurs. Another book that I'm a real big fan of is Essentialism.
Highly recommended. Awesome, man. And lastly, how do we find out about you, Justin? How do you find out about your work and the programs you're offering right now in the podcast?
I would say just plug into the show, results513.com/show. That's a link to, get a free little productivity gift and really subscribe to the show. You can just go to results513.com. All of our contact information is there. Social profiles, we're on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. My personal email is justin@results513.com. So if you have questions, just email. But we, as a matter of fact, if you have questions specifically about business or entrepreneurship or that type of thing, we have like four of the 7 episodes that we do every week are us just doing dedicated episodes answering people's questions. So if you have questions you want them answered by myself and business partner in like really in depth, then submit the questions over there and we'll answer them. So yeah, just reach out. We've got a lot of free content. If there's anything that we can do to help, just let us know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justin. I took away a lot from that, guys. I think that was pretty awesome. My takeaway was you've got enough information. Don't consume anymore. Go create. Go make it happen. Justin, thank you so much for that, man. And really appreciate your time today, brother. See you on the other side.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me, and we'll talk soon.
All right, God bless. Bye-bye. Thank you again for joining us today on the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast. I pray you've been inspired, you've been lifted, you've been encouraged to take your personal leadership to the next level. We really encourage you guys to just take action, make it happen, do something, start somewhere, go out and change the world in some way, big or small. Guys, if you've enjoyed the podcast today, please share with your friends, share with your loved ones, your colleagues, someone out there you think might benefit from hearing this great content. And if you want some more questions answering, you got a question, email me, Errol@errollawson.com. Or if you want a free 30 to 45 minute coaching session with myself around a leadership challenge or issue you're working on in your business, your church, or in your organization, please feel free to email me right away. We'll get you booked in. It's Errol@errollawson.com. Thank you again for listening. Go to our iTunes page, check it out, check out the previous episodes. Give us a nice review, that would be awesome. Really appreciate if you could do that for us. We really appreciate you just for being here and listening. Thank you so much. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Rising Generation.